tagline, the herd is coming. And, boy, did I feel silly for years. I was talking about the institutional herd, right? I was one of the first institutional guys, me, Dan Moorhead. There were a few of us to start telling the Bitcoin story to institutions. And most of them just said, oh, that's really interesting, close. A few intrepid, you guys had Fairfax County, got in early, but very few institutions did. And so I look back, if I made a mistake in my Bitcoin journey, it was probably building an institutional business when I should have started with retail, because it really was the people's business. Let me answer the second question. Why did I start a damn company instead of just be a fund manager or manage my own money? Because it's so much easier to manage your own money. You own Bitcoin, Ethereum. I think the way you stay young in life is work with young people and learn new things. And while I'd been a macro investor my whole life, I wasn't a venture investor. I'd made a couple of venture investments. And you can't be in crypto without being venture, right? Pomp has become a great venture investor from being kind of a media celebrity. Now he's a better venture investor than he is a media celebrity, right? Crypto is about venture and macro. It's this weirdly important. BlackRock's the largest asset manager in the world. He's one of the most recognized thinkers. But it's now not just Bitcoin and the ETF, right? They announced this week they're filing with the SEC to do a tokenized digital assets fund. So what are they going to tokenize? I mean, Larry said it. They're going to try to tokenize money market funds. And well, that would be revolutionary, right? Think about it right now. Stablecoins don't pay interest. The dollar doesn't pay interest. Anyone have a dollar in your pocket? No interest. Put it in a bank, it makes 5.5%. Well, actually, put it in a bank at JP Morgan, it makes 0. But you can get 5.5% in a money market fund, but in your pocket, it makes 0. So if we can start tokenizing, I don't think they'll get that through, but that's what they're going to push. And so you're going to see, not in the next 3 months, but in the next 3 years, assets get tokenized, minority stakes in sports teams, funds, real estate maybe. And so I would tell you that every big bank has teams working like crazy on this idea because they're scared if we get in it. And when you run a regulated company, you got to be very careful because the amount of scrutiny that Galaxy and I'm sure Coinbase and everyone else gets is 4x what we got when we were hedge funds. And so even participating in meme coins, I don't as much as I'd want to because I just fear if I tweet, God, I love dog with hat like Arthur Hayes does, I will literally be investigated 2 days later by the CFTC. And so we hold ourselves to a different standard, and we've learned that as the process goes. And I'm not knocking Arthur. I love the guy, and I love dog with hat, just the spirit of it. The Bitcoin got through the gauntlet. It is now a non-asset. It doesn't need to be regulated by the SEC. And so anything associated with Bitcoin, like Bitcoin miners trade publicly, and you can still get through the SEC if you just do Bitcoin. It appears Gensler partisan, but a small faction, right? Elizabeth Warren, Sherrod Brown, unfortunately, has kind of gotten on her bandwagon. It feels like people in the White House, Lael Brainerd, have broadly, certainly Gary, have broadly said, we don't like crypto. And in DC, small factions can hold up the whole process. And I think the Democrats are getting the message I just said. The American people have just voted, and they voted Bitcoin, right? When you're in politics, you've got to be careful that you don't get so tied up on what you want versus what is. And so this is going to be a losing issue for Democrats. There are a bunch of PACs that have been formed, crypto PACs that are putting money against vulnerable Democratic senators. The Democrats understand that and see that happening. And so it won't surprise me to see them pivot to at least a more neutral stance. So I think we get legislation, but it's an unbelievably frustrating. Last year has been frustrating. I think this year will be frustrating until the election.
So as someone who's traded
Dean Witter or Morgan Stanley or AJ Edwards and say, hey, what's my portfolio? Put a little bit here. That is the ETF process, and it has just started. And so early, big adoption, a lot of the smaller platform regional brokers have been buying, but a lot of the big platforms like Morgan Stanley, and they're still not selling yet. They're going to. They're getting prepared to. You can buy it on their platform, but the salesmen aren't selling it. And one thing I learned about Bitcoin, it's always sold, it's not bought. Somebody sits down and explains it to you, right? What's the macro story of Bitcoin? It's relatively simple. Our government can't keep its pants on and is spending too much money. And when you spend more money than you take in, you depreciate your currency. And that went from a problem in the early 2000s, 2007, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, to enough. We are going to go back to a Simpson-Bowles balanced budget amendment. We are going to cut spending from 25% back to 18 or 19%. Bitcoin's going to keep going higher.
What about countries that are adopting Bitcoin? We've seen El Salvador, they're taking custody of their Bitcoin. They've got 5,000 something Bitcoin. Argentina, we now have somebody who's stepping in, who's slashing, spending and trying to really economically revamp the country. Is that stuff, one, going to work? And two, do you see some of these countries actually going on to like a Bitcoin standard?
I don't think they'll go on a Bitcoin standard, but I think they'll buy Bitcoin. Listen, if the whole world blows up, you never know what comes next. I go to bed every night and I pray the whole world doesn't blow up. I actually, quite frankly, would rather have Bitcoin go up slowly than go to 1 million overnight, because it would make us all wealthier. We would lose civil society. A lot of activity around this because, again, Argentina said our currency went to hell in a handbasket. We got to do something. So you've got this new right-wing president who says, okay, we're going to ban the central bank, and we're going to go on, in essence, a hard money standard.
My last question is around Galaxy. You guys have built a pretty big business. Seems like things are quite successful. You just announced $10 billion in assets under management for your asset management business. You're in Canada. I know that there has been a lot of talk online that the company trades at a lower book value. Talk a little bit as to how you think about the business. How do you guys make money? Canada versus US markets.
So caveat, we have earnings on Monday. And so I got to be a little careful what I say. Like, our business feels great. And the institutions are finally coming in partnerships, in activity, and so when I look at the forward roadmap, we have an amazing roadmap. Our challenge, of course, is now to go execute it.